warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Today I will deliver about monitoring and assessment. But before we begin, I want to introduce myself before. My name is Robi Aladawiyah. Let's begin. The first title is Guidelines for Monitoring and Assessment. So there is monitoring and assessment can provide a teacher and learners with information about the learner's present knowledge and progress, and it can also be a means of encouraging involvement and participations. The next is types of monitoring and assessments. So the purpose of the monitoring and assessment part of curriculum design is to make sure that the learners will get the most benefit from the course. So let us look at the major types of monitoring and assessment that can occur as a part of course. Next, the first is placement assessment. So the learners are assessed at the beginning of a course to see what level of the course they should be. The aim of this testing is to ensure that the course is not going to be too easy or too difficult for the learners. The second is observation of learning. While the course is running, the activity that the learners do are carefully monitored to see if each particular activity is likely to achieve its learning goals. So this involves technique analysis and classroom observation. The third is short-term achievement assessment. So at regular intervals during the course, the learners may be monitored to see what they are learning from the course. This short-term assessment can occur on a daily or weekly basis. So it's called achievement assessment because it examines items and skill drawn from the course. Next, the fourth is diagnostic assessment. So in order to plan a program, it is useful to know where learners' strengths and weaknesses lie and where there are gaps in their knowledge. So diagnostic assessments try to diagnose or locate areas of need. And then the next is the fifth is achievement assessment. So usually at the end of a course and perhaps at 1 or 2 points during the course, the learners are assessed on what they have learned from the course. So this may have the purpose of examining the effectiveness of the course as much as testing the learners. And the last is proficiency assessment. So based on the items drawn from the language as a whole rather than from the content of a particular course, it tries to measure learners' language knowledge in relation to other learners who may have studied different courses or in relation to areas of language knowledge that are based upon an analysis of the language. The next, look at the table. It is the table about the monitoring and assessment guidelines. So there are any environment needs and then the principle. So in the principle there are two. The principle described in this chapter. For the next is good assessment, reliability, validity, and practicality. Next, here is statistically reliability, validity, and then practicality. So a reliable test gives results that are not greatly upset by condition that the test is not intended to measure. After allowing for the practice effect, if the same person sat the test twice, they should get near enough to the same results. Statistically reliability is measured by having the learner sit the test twice or more commonly, by splitting the scores on the individual test items into two equal groups and saying if the learners get the same score on both groups. So a test is more reliable if the first it is always given under the same condition, and then the second it is constantly marked. The third is it has a large number of points assessment, that is many questions, or as in a dictation, many items that are marked. And then the last is it is questions and instruction are clear and unambiguous. The next, validity. Okay, a valid test measure what is supposed to measure. A valid achievement test measure what has been learned on the course. So a valid listening test measures skill of listening. So the most practical ways for a teacher or curriculum designer to check the validity of a test are to look at its face validity and content validity. There are other ways of measuring validity, and then some of this involve statistical comparison with other measures. The next is practicality. So not only must a test be reliable and then valid, it must also be practical. Practicality is examined by looking at the cost involved in administering and scoring the test. The second is the time is taken to administer and set the test, and then the third is the time is taken to mark the test. The fourth is the number of people needed to administer and mark the test, and then the last is be easy in interpreting and applying the results of the test. So improvement in practicality can often be found by giving careful thought to the test format and by doing a little pilot testing. The next is summary of the steps. So the first is decide what kind of assessment are needed and when they are needed. The second is write the test, and then the last is check the reliability, validity, and practicality of the test. Let's move on into chapter 8. So, but before we move into chapter 8, from all above the chapter 7, assessment is a major source of information for the evaluations of a course, and then thus its gradual improvement. The assessment also contributes significantly to the teachers and learners' sense of achievement in a course, and thus is important for the motivation. It is often neglected in curriculum design, and courses are less effective as a result. So the curriculum design should include the planning of a well-thought-out program of assessment of various kinds. So we now go on to look at the next chapter about evaluation in the next chapter. Well, evaluation. So the aim of this part of the curriculum design process is to decide how to check if the course is successful and then where it needs to improve. So what is the purpose and audience of the evaluation? So of course, evaluation can be an expensive and time-consuming procedure. For example, an evaluation of an intensive English program involves taking to teach all of the 36 teachers on the program for at least half an hour each, and in some cases for 5 or more hours. And then most of really important works in evaluation is done before the data gathering begins. So as in experimental research, you cannot fix by statistics what has been spoiled in design. And then the first critical step is to find out who the evaluation is for and what kind of information they value. So the type and focus on the evaluations, a distinction is made between formative evaluation and then summative evaluation. Next, look at the table, 8 first and 1. Here is formative and summative evaluation compare. So there are any proposed type of data, use of data, presentation of finding, and then formative, summative. You can see the table, and then next we can look. So a formative evaluation has the purpose of forming or shaping the course to improve. A summative evaluation has the purpose of of making a summary, so or judgment on the quality or adequacy of the course so that it can be compared with other courses, compared with previous summative evaluation, or judged as being up to certain criterions or not. And then the formative or summative distinction is important when informating the people who are the focus of an evaluation about the purpose of the evaluation, in helping the evaluator decide what kind of information will be most useful to gather, and in using the information gathered. Look at the table A1 and then compares formative and summative evaluation deliberately, contrasting the differences to make the distinction clear. So the next is gaining support for the evaluation. So a course evaluation looks for strengths and weakness, but it is naturally the weakness that cause concern. A properly conducted evaluation can be an empowering and most motivating activity. So the assumption behind an evaluation usually are that the first is this course is worth improving. The second, the people running and teaching the course are capable of improving it. The third is the people involved in the course have the freedom and flexibility to make change to the course. And then the last is the improvement will make it a better course for all concerned. The next, gathering the information. For the first is interview. Just take the interview. Interview are usually conducted on a one-to-one basis, but it is sometimes useful to interview a commit or to use a staff meeting as a way of gathering data. Next, look at the table. It is table focus and tool for evaluation of teaching and learning. How focused it is amount of learning, quality of teaching, quality of course book, quality of curriculum design, quality of curriculum, degree of later success of graduates of the course, and then teacher, learners, or sponsor stratification. The next, self-report skills. So questionnaires are of many different types, and so it is useful to distinguish those that involve open-ended question from those that are largely asking respondents to rate an aspect of the course on a predetermined scale. So this can be called self-report scales. So here is an example. The teaching on the course was 1 for very poor, 2 for poor, 3 for adequate, 4 very good, and then the last is excellent. Okay, next, observation and checklist. So most aspects of a course can be evaluated to some degree through observation and analysis. This include analysis the course book, observing learning in lesson, observing teaching, analyzing the coverage of curriculum design procedure, and then observing the performance of learners after the course. And another kind of observation and analysis where the observer or analyzer has a checklist of features to look for and evaluate. The next, so here is the disadvantage of checklists are that the first is they may blind the observer from seeing other important features that are not on the list, and then the second is they tend to become out of the depth as theory change. Consider the course book evaluation from the design by the talker, and then the third is many checklists are based on the assumption that summing the part is equal to the whole. So for the advantage of checklists are that first is they ensure that there is a systematic coverage of what is important. They allow comparison between different course, lesson, and then teachers. And then the third is they can act as a basis for the improvement of a course through formative evaluations. So the next, it is the result of an evaluation. So when an evaluation has been done, the result need to be presented. This presentation involves ethical issue, particularly those of confidently and consideration for the feelings and order. The next is summary of the step. Next, summary of the step. The first is discover the purpose and type of evaluation, assess the time and money needed, decide what kinds of information to gather, gain the support of the people involved, gather the information, present the finding, apply what has been learned from the evaluation, and then do a follow-up evaluation. Okay, next. So guys, evaluation is an essential part of good curriculum design. It ensures that weaknesses in curriculum design are found and repaired. It allows for the adjustment of a course to a changing environment and changing needs. If evaluation is well planned, it can help teachers develop professionally and come to feel what the course is truly their own. So I think enough. Thanks for the attention. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.